In the wide array of Robert Zemeckis' works, this movie stands out from the rest. In the body of work of Bruce Willis, this movie also stands out from the rest. A movie that is full of dark comedy that is actually inspired by Tales from the Crypt, so much so that it was originally supposed to be a sequel to the 1972 movie. But is it any good? Let's find out. I'm Meffistoe. Like, share, and subscribe because this is my review of the movie Death Becomes Her.
She's dead, sir. They took her to the morgue.
The morgue? She'll be furious!
Death Becomes Her is a 1992 movie written and directed by Robert Zemeckis, and it was created because of Zemeckis' love of Tales from the Crypt. He loved the movie, and he was involved in the TV show revival in the late 80s. He envisioned Death Becomes Her as a sequel to the movie or as a long episode of the show, but it was delighted to make it into a full-length feature film. The project itself was ambitious because it involved groundbreaking special effects, especially the CGI, which at the time was in its infancy. The most innovative thing about this is ILM that were put in charge of special effects, and they created a brand new way of dealing with skin, a technique that was replicated a year later in Jurassic Park.
I will not speak to you till you put your head on straight.
Our story begins in 1978 as Helen and her fiancé Ernest are watching a play starring Helen's childhood friend Madeline, who is now a Hollywood star. It seems like Ernest is infatuated by Madeline, and despite his assurance to Helen that nothing would ever come between those two, he dumps Helen and marries Madeline. And this causes a cascade effect that leads Helen to be committed in a mental hospital. Meanwhile, Ernest's marriage to Madeline is not sunshine and rainbows, as he discovers that she is not really a great person. Madeline's looks are fading, and she keeps changing for improvements until she is offered a choice that leads her down a dark path with no return.
It stops the aging process dead in its tracks and forces it into retreat.
Death Becomes Her is mostly a dark comedy, but it is also a story about revenge, misunderstanding, and my favorite sin, vanity. After all, I am a fan of man. All three main characters are flawed. Madeline is pretentious, vain, and does not accept her own mortality. She is chasing the same dream as all actresses in Hollywood and a lot of trophy wives in Beverly Hills. And that dream is to capture the youth in a bottle and keep it close to your heart. But they all fail to Father Time. The length Madeline goes to in order to seek out that fountain of youth leads her down a very dark path.
Are you listening to me? Do you even care? You just stand there with your 22-year-old skin and your tits like rocks and laughing.
Helen is a scorned lover. From the get-go, we get to know that she got issues with Madeline, and when she gets betrayed yet again, her mental issues forces her down a path of destruction. It starts with self-harm and then diverts into full-blown revenge plot.
Take her to the top of Mulholland Drive, call the police, and report that we've seen a drunk woman swerving dangerously close to the edge.
Ernest is just weak. He is a good person, but he is corrupted by his lust for Madeline that not only pushes him into the booze, but causes him to change his profession into something he really hates. He is neurotic, jittery, and lacks self-confidence, and he is forced to do the bidding of his wife.
Oh, it's you.
Fine, dear. Thank you. Like a rock.
You're dressed. Special occasion.
Work.
Beneath the facade of a dark comedy, there is a layer of a horror story that is completely ripped from an episode of Tales from the Crypt. It is sort of a mix between a Twilight Zone and a full horror, and it's not intending on scaring you, but it deals with dark choices and what Christians call sinful behavior. In fact, there is a repetition of the devil's choice, a sort of metaphor on the old sign on this dotted line, accept riches in exchange for your soul kind of a thing. Of course, it's not as overt as this, but it is there. And at some point in the movie, all three of our characters face that choice, and their choice allows us to judge their characters.
How much is it?
The sordid topic of coin, I'm afraid, is not so simple.
In terms of the performances, Meryl Streep seems like she was typecast for the role, mainly because Zemeckis kind of written the role for her. I, of course, know nothing about Meryl's personal life, but it seems to me she felt really comfortable in that role. In fact, Madeline really reminds me of a different role, the role of Mary Fisher from a movie called She-Devil, played by, of course, Meryl Streep. But it seems like overall, the role of Madeline is basically Meryl Streep just turned up to 11.
Wrinkled, wrinkled little star. Hope they never see the scars.
Goldie Hawn as the psychotic Helen also does a great job, but I would say she seems to be acting way more than Streep this time. Regardless, she matches up with Streep really well and plays off as catty and as manipulative as her, which is exactly why they fight and why they are friends to begin with.
You're avoiding the issue.
Oh,
you
really?
told my boyfriends to hurt me on purpose.
I did not.
Admit it.
No, you admit it.
The best role and the best character and the best acting actually goes to Bruce Willis. Out of all the parts that he played that were non-action oriented, Ernest Manville is the most different and the most unique. Where in Hudson Hawk, North, and The Whole Nine Yards, they were all happy comedies, Ernest and Death Becomes Her is a unique role. Never before or since did Willis had to play a neurotic mess of a man that fell into lust and has to atone for his sins by keeping his wife happy despite of him fantasizing on her demise. And because he keeps stumbling to more and more ridiculous situations, he has the most character growth and a full redemption arc.
It just happened. I mean, it was an accident. It's better than an accident. At least it's gonna look like an accident.
Have you called the police?
No, I called you first thing.
I will highly recommend you watch this movie because in the grand landscape of Hollywood films, it is so special. It is a dark comedy layered with serious criticism about Hollywood beauty culture and its standards. But it is also a tale of morality and biting the proverbial forbidden fruit and the price you have to pay in order to grab that bite. And all of that presented with groundbreaking CGI that you would never expect this type of movie to have. And to 1992 standards, it looks phenomenal. So much so that it beat both Alien 3 and Batman Returns to the Oscar for Best Visual Effects. But it also has great performances all around, especially Bruce Willis and the unforgettable cameo from Isabella Rossellini as the mysterious LaSalle.
I think you should leave right away. I see a very, very bad situation developing here.
I thank you for watching, and remember, hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. I'll see you on the next video.